Greetings. Welcome to In Conversation with Trevor, brought to you by Heart and Soul Broadcasting Services. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. Today I'm in conversation with Dominic Benhura, internationally celebrated sculptor. If you enjoy this conversation, remember to subscribe, to like, and share. Let's get down to some work. Dominic Benhura, welcome to In Conversation with Trevor.
Thanks so much for having me, brother. Yeah.
We met 3 weeks ago at Annan's Lodge, and I hadn't met you before. So I was walking around looking at, admiring your work, and somebody tells me that Dominic is behind you. What were you doing there? And the other thing you told us that you just come from overseas.
Yes.
What were you doing at Annan's Lodge, and where had you gone overseas?
Actually, at Annan's Lodge, we were having a show there. They had a visiting chef from California. She's a celebrity chef by the name Clara Ho. So she was going to do some demonstrations and cooking there. So we were invited to put up a show for them to show some cultural aspect of Zimbabwean art. Yeah.
How did that go?
Yeah, it went very well, and I understand she's going to get one of my pieces, so I'm really excited.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
And you and I stood in front of your beautiful piece. What was that piece called? What is that piece called?
I called it Feeling Good.
Feeling Good.
Yes.
Beautiful piece.
Thank you.
I think let's immediately go to the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is the controversy that one of your statues, one of your work caused. You did a statue of Robert Mugabe.
Yes.
Towards the end of his reign, which caused a lot of controversy. Did people misunderstand what you wanted to do?
I think they've got their own interpretations, but I did what I could at that time, because actually I would like to say it's like music. Some people play reggae, some play rumba, some play sungura, like in our country. But sometimes if you are given a job to play reggae, you might have the basic skills, but maybe you may not be as good in that area. So when you look at portraits and statues mainly, there are people who are really skilled to produce exactly like a human being, whereas my work is more like abstract work. So because of my name, maybe, and of my reputation, they were really keen for me to do a statue, which I honestly told them that maybe I was not very good at that area. But they said, no, please
So
do
they
it for us.
approached you to do the statue?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, who approached you?
The office of the president, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
They said, do a piece for us.
for the
And
president.
they were going to pay for you, or you did it for free for the president?
They were going to pay for me, but I was not very keen to be paid
Okay.
anyway. Yes, because I thought it was an honor to be recognized at that level.
Okay.
Yes.
And you're reluctant because this is not the kind of
my
stuff
life.
that you do.
Yes, but actually it was a blessing in disguise in the end, because it was a learning curve for me. Because after that, then I realized how to actually come up with techniques to do portraits. Now I can do them, because immediately after that, I did one for Dr. Guramatunu, which is very, very nice. So now I can safely say I can do it.
So from that sticky place, you
Yes.
learned something.
I learned something, so now I can do portraits.
That's
yes.
interesting.
Yes.
What was your response like to the criticism? I mean, you basically jumped into a storm because Zimbabwe is so polarized.
I know.
At that time, people were, for lack of a better word, fed up with Robert Mugabe.
Yeah.
And for them to see you do that, it was as if you were supporting him. How did you respond to the criticism?
No, I take criticism. You shouldn't expect always positive criticism from whatever you do. You learn from criticism. If people criticize you, it's like they expect better out of you. So for me, it was like telling me that you can do better than this, which was really good, actually.
And were you making a political statement at all by doing the statue?
No, I'm an artist. I know other artists have it in them to do political statements, but with me, no.
No.
No,
And
it's not within me.
when they approached you to do the statue, did you question the timing? One, did you foresee the kind of pushback that you received?
No, I never foresee. For me, there was nothing about timing because I'm not a political activist myself.
Right.
I'm just an artist. So it was just a normal job for me to do, my normal job routines, So, yeah, I was not expecting anything. But
were you surprised by the pushback and some of the insults and stuff? Were you surprised by any of that?
Not really, but because even in families, even in social circles, we always have criticisms and pushbacks, it's normal.
That's a mature way of looking at things, isn't
that's
it?
True. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me, how did you get into this area? I mean, I've not met you. I'd not met you until I met you at Amanzi Lodge.
Yes.
But I've always admired your work. How did you get into this profession?
Yeah, I think I started sculpting when I was about 4, 5, 6 years, with clay at Mrewa, where I was born and bred. So whilst heading cattle, I would spend most of the time molding with clay because my father died whilst I was in my mother's womb. So to supplement my mother's our food, I used to head cattle for our neighbors. So others, I only started school when I was 9.
Wow.
Why? Because my mother just didn't have money to send me to school. So I would spend most of the time just heading cattle. So when they were fed and they rested, then I would spend time just molding with clay by myself. So that's how I gained the techniques. So when I was about 10 years, that's when my auntie brought me to Tafara so that I could start education. That's when I came across one of my relatives who was also a sculptor.
Who is that? What's his name?
Tafumaguza. He's quite a big name.
Okay.
So I saw him sculpting with other artists.
So Tafuma was a great inspiration to you.
Yeah, him and because they were a column of artists working together. So I was so fascinated by people creating sculptures from taking away than putting
things together.
And also when you make a mistake with stone, you cannot fix it sometimes. But although you can always improvise.
Yeah.
So it was so exciting to me, such that I ended up not playing soccer plastic balls with other kids. I was hanging around with those guys. So I asked them if I could help them, with their work, and they agreed. That's how I gained the techniques. But it wasn't long that I started making little miniature pieces for myself, and people liked them so much. I remember Mick Pierce, the ones who designed Estigate More. They started collecting my work at that age. So that encouraged.
How old were you? Remind
around
me.
10 years.
Around 10 years old.
Yeah.
They started collecting your work.
Yeah. So in the end, I ended up making enough money to pay for my own education, not because my auntie didn't want to pay for me, but I was just earning enough to do that. So I paid for my education until when I was about to go to A level, where I did I only went as far as Form 5.
Where did you go to?
Oreo Boys.
Oreo Boys.
Back then, yeah.
And so, you're now paying for yourself?
Yeah, I was already paying for myself, such that when I went to for registration, when they said who is paying, I put my name. They said, no, you can't do that. So I had to go and ask Tafuma, my cousin, to come and maybe just ceremoniously put his name as my guardian. But after only a term, I decided to quit because I was doing mathematics, chemistry, biology, and physics. But I thought I didn't want to be a doctor, but it was against the will of my mother, as well as my auntie, as well, and relatives, because they thought I wouldn't have a good future from art back then, But I just felt inside the passion, and I felt I would change my family's life through art, and I think I'm glad that God helped me achieve that so far.
Wow.
So good.
So you push back against your aunt and your mom, who wanted
society.
you to, and society,
As
wanted you to do something else.
Yes, as an orphan, because they thought I wouldn't, as an orphan, given my background, they thought I needed something firm, like education, to be the
How easy was it to push back?
It was not easy, but I was confident I could do it. Yeah.
I read somewhere that you ended up having a rupture with your parents, with your mom, and you ended up walking away from your mom and your relatives. Is that true?
No, it's not true.
Okay.
She was only upset because we had some relatives who were kept back then, because it was a big thing when somebody graduated back then, because I was a brilliant boy.
Yeah.
So I think she wasn't happy, but when I started doing it, she realized it was a good decision, because she was selling vegetables by the roadside, like poor. She lived in one room.
Where was that?
In Chitungwiza.
Chitungwiza.
Renting a place maybe with others. Maybe nearly 10 lodgers at the same place using one toilet. It was terrible. So I told her I would buy a house. But unfortunately, she died when I just left school for 1 year.
Oh, no.
And within a year, I managed to buy a house, which was so sad, in Zivaraseko, my first house.
Painful.
So she never saw anything.
She never. What about your aunt? What is your aunt's position now that you are an internationally acclaimed sculptor and artist?
Yeah, she's such a special person to me, because she always gives me the love and affection like she used to do when I was a little boy. So she doesn't see me the other way as a successful person or a material person, but as a human being. I think she loves me. She sees me differently from a lot of people. Yeah.
There's lessons in your life right there. For me, the sense that you decide you're going to quit school, you're going to follow your passion. What message would you want to share with young people that are battling, who think school is the way out, but they have a talent that they're passionate about? What would you say?
Yeah, mine is a rare case, to be honest, because you need that background foundation, especially in this modern day world. I would encourage them to maybe get education so that they are smart, and also they can negotiate. They become a little bit business minded when talking to tourists. So you need that background foundation. Yeah.
What's interesting, sorry to jump in there, Dominic. What's interesting for me is we had Mona Mukundu sitting there, and almost like you, Mona Mukundu at 5 years old, he knew exactly what he wanted to do,
right?
And he knew that school was not the way to go.
Right.
I'm wondering, is it something to do with the creative people who get a sense of what they want to do early on in life?
No, I think a lot of youngsters, they want to get into this because they think there's a lot of money, not for passion. But if you are really passionate of what you want to do, and by the grace of God, maybe you realize you're talented in early age. Because especially I was 10 when I made that decision. But Mono, if you tell me he was 5, I think it's only from God, You'll be directing your desires. Because the Bible says with these desires, it's Him who implanted those desires, and He will fulfill them. But a lot of people get into this and they find maybe they're not successful commercially. They quit or they get frustrated.
Which means they didn't go into it for the right reason, isn't it?
Exactly, yes. Yes.
And when do you remember you're selling your first piece, the one that really got you excited? And what piece was this?
It was a small head of a woman. And when I made it, I think with stone, I was thinking of my mother, basically. Yeah. So it was just a head, and it was my first piece which I sold. I think it was just 6 months before I started, within 6 months when I started working with stone. So that encouraged me a lot. And with the architects who were coming there, like Mick Pierce, Peter Jackson, those who also built Danico School. I've got a sculpture there which I made when I was in primary school, which they put on their offices, which they called Spirit of Danico. So, yeah, that encouraged me. The first piece was a head, But I'm more inclined towards women because I was basically brought up by my
women.
Mother. Yes. So you find my sculptures more about women and girls, yeah.
Yes, and I noticed when we walked around, we saw the shy girl.
Yes.
There's a shy girl, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
Talk to me now, Dominic, about your creative process. I think you're already indicating that you're inclined to do work on women, on girls. What else inspires you, and how does this inspiration come up?
Yeah.
Maybe let's do this. Let's take a break there.
Okay, thank
and
you.
when we come back, you're going to share with us your creative process.
Okay.
So that people get a sense of this passion and where it comes from. Please join us on the other side when we discuss Dominic's creative process. See you on the other side.
It's important that our government puts art seriously in their children's curriculum.
Welcome back to our conversation with Dominic Benhura, internationally celebrated sculptor. Dominic, when we took the break, we were going into your creative process. What are the things that inspire you, and how do you get into that process? Do you need to be in a quiet place, and how do you get into your creative process?
Actually, my creative process, I'm quite happy that I was born here in Zimbabwe. Maybe if I was not born in Zimbabwe, I wouldn't be an artist, because I'm inspired. I only do not do figures. I also do animals. I do plants. If somebody was brought up in Morewa. So I'm basically inspired by
Nature, surroundings.
Yeah, my natural environment in Zimbabwe, and also because I do figures, you find people behaving the same way all over the world. So I'm inspired by people all over the world. But animals are more inspired by our local animals and plants.
And how do you describe to us how you get into looking at a rock, piece of stone, and then saying, "This is what I'm going to do with this"?
Yeah, sometimes I come up with ideas, I put them on, I draw, I can sketch, because those architects were buying my work when I was a little boy. They thought I would be a very good architect just looking at my work. So I used to go to study architecture during school holidays and weekends, and they would pay me for that as well. I ended up doing little jobs for them as well, because they wanted to give me a scholarship if I had finished my maybe A-level or whatever.
Yeah.
They wanted to send me specifically to Scotland, because I think they had a university which they thought I would qualify. But also I gave up on that.
Why?
Yeah, because I decided to be an artist full time, yeah.
Do you regret that?
Not at all. I'm the best person, because I know I have a hobby, which also is my work, and I have the opportunity to work from home within my family environment and my friends and society, Yeah.
No regrets at all?
Oh, no regrets at all, because I've been able to see nearly every part of the world, the continent really, over the years, since 1991, I travel a lot.
God doesn't make mistakes. Where you were born determines what you're going to become.
Absolutely.
Where you're educated determines what you're going to do in life.
Yes.
I'm saying that because you're saying, if you're not born in Zimbabwe, you would not have been an artist. This is where you're supposed to be. Look at what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here, and I can't think of living in another place. Yeah.
What role does God play in your life?
Role. I think he guides me, he feeds me, and he gave me the talent which is within me, and he gives me the life which I'm being able to talk to you today, So I really appreciate that. And he gave me kids as well, and beautiful wives. So and I've got really brilliant kids.
How many kids do you have?
I have five, three boys and 2 boys, and the last year. So, and they're very bright. The youngest one now will also be going to university, so all of them will be at university.
Did you say wife or wives?
Wives, yeah.
Wives?
Yes.
How many do you have?
When I was a little boy, I had my 2 girlfriends. So they got pregnant because, I was a little boy, but I didn't want any of my kids to be an orphan, just like I was. Because I know a lot of people, they've got kids out there, but they don't look after them. So I decided, because I made a mistake as a little boy, I thought I would look after my kids and their mothers, and I still have them up.
So you've got 2 wives?
Yes.
And 5 kids?
Yeah, 3 girls and 2 boys, yeah. But they get along very well together, which is fine. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. You founded a studio.
Yes.
Talk to us about that and where you found the name you gave it and the thinking behind it.
Yeah, when that was earlier, in the mid-90s, I realized I was more gifted than a lot of people, and even materially back then, So I used to work at Chapungu. So when I bought my my second house in Greendale, I discovered that instead of 300 square meters where we used to work from in Tafara, I had 2 acres of land. Wow. Then I realized that Chapungu, they used to have a program where they called residence program, where they would apply. Then after a year or so, you have to go. So I realized there were a lot of youngsters who were talented back then, but sometimes they wouldn't qualify to go there, but they needed nurturing. So I decided why don't I just open this space for other artists, to come and work from there? Then I would provide them with basic materials, a basic lunch, and breakfast every day, and transport for those who need. And all
How many do you have at any given time?
At least 10, but more than 20 sometimes. It depends. And also some other professional artists, they sometimes come and share the space with us, both local and overseas. So naturally, it became known as Dominic Studio. But within that, we also work with school children unfortunately, mostly from private schools, expatriate kids like Heritage and Eaglesville. Unfortunately, we don't get much from our local government schools, maybe because of economic problems, transport and stuff, because maybe they don't have buses and so forth. So I'm thinking maybe in the long run, we might have to maybe actually visit them in this school, in their environment, and work with kids there. Yeah.
Have you produced, has the studio produced stars like you? Can you name a few that have come from the studio?
Yeah, we've got quite a number over the years, and most of them have got houses and are driving and traveling as well.
Wow.
Like Brighton Lyson. There's one called David White. I think he's really, really brilliant, that one. There's Semina Mpofu. She's a painter. She graduated. Then we've got quite a few over the years.
That must give you a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing process, and I'm thinking of expanding it. Maybe a sculpture park, which is just a dream.
Talk to me about the dream. What's the dream?
Yeah, I want to develop a sculpture park, and we identified a small place to do that, whereby maybe then I'll bring in kids from mostly these rural areas, because they don't have that opportunity. I think we might find maybe 3 or more Dominics, from maybe Bulawayo or Mtare or Mrewa.
How do you select those kids? Is it them coming to you, or you have a way of identifying the passion, the talent?
I think within societies, sometimes you find kids when they come with their parents just to visit. You can see some of them are quite interested. Then you give them the opportunity to try their luck.
You've done presentations to Kofi Annan, to Nelson Mandela. Talk to me about those pieces. And as part of, you're now celebrated throughout the world and not in Zimbabwe. And your work is recognized by what are called Hollywood A-listers. Talk to me about that international recognition versus us here not appreciating the work that you do.
I think just like any other art form, you find people seem to appreciate even music from overseas than ours. I think why is because of the platforms we have. But it's good that when you give us these opportunities like this to talk to our Zimbabwean audiences and stuff. So it depends. What people are fed with is what they appreciate. They get used to that. That's why I find a lot of people, those who are well-to-do, but I'm glad a few are beginning to invest in art, are interested in cars, even well-to-do people. And offices like this, sometimes you need also like to see a painting, but at least I can see there's a portrait of you there, which is good,
Yeah.
But in other countries, what they do is, even when they're developing new buildings, construction, the 10%, they put it to art, whether it's painting or whatever. And you find you've got a lot of pieces at international places, like you were saying, also like Atlanta Airport. We have about 200 meters worth of Zimbabwean sculpture, which I went to install on behalf of other sculptors. But if we have things like that in our country, and unfortunately, even in Harare, we hardly see any sculptures there. And yet we have got a lot of pieces in public places around the world. And I'm currently doing a very huge commission for a park in the United States, but here we don't get any.
Who commissioned it?
It's the Seat of Camel. It's the second piece which they have commissioned me. The first one was a figurative mother and child, which is my signature style. But now they realized I can make animals, so they asked me to do bisons for them now.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think but the other thing is, I think it's important that our government puts art seriously in their children's curriculum at kindergarten stage, so that they grow with it. So when they grow with it, we might find more artists from that, and also more collectors from that. Then that's how they...
Why do you think it's important to do that to young people?
You find if you go to South Africa, for instance, art is a big industry. That's why in Nigeria, they've got Nollywood, in India, they've got Bollywood, and in America, they've got Hollywood. Art is very, very important. Yeah. And it can create a lot of employment within a nation.
Why do you think we don't recognize the importance of art? One, as part of our culture, as part of our economy. Why do you think we don't recognize that and give it the place that we ought to be doing along the lines you're describing now?
Yeah, I think as long as it's not legislated, maybe it's not taken seriously. That's why I thought if it's a legislation that they push it through the schools, from an early age, then people grow with it. Yes.
Talk to me about the piece that you gave to Nelson Mandela. What piece was that?
It was called Swimmy Mama. It was a piece, from what I understand, they wanted just a sculpture in the courtyard, where it is Children's Foundation.
So did they commission it?
Yes, they did, yes. So then somebody, they wanted something which you would see from his office. Which was, I think it was second floor in the courtyard, because maybe they said, why don't you put something which he could enjoy through the window? Because I think maybe it was just, he would look through the window most of the time. So I think by grace of God, somebody told them there's an artist in Zimbabwe who is passionate about children and mothers. And so they asked me to see my portfolio. I did send them.
That's beautiful.
Then they asked me to produce something. When I produced it, they liked it so much, such that they showed him. I think he liked it as well. So they asked me to come and present it personally to him. So they said, you only have 5 minutes with him. But when I met him, he just liked me. So he took me by the hand. We went into the garden. I spent nearly 30 minutes sitting next to him. So I was really fortunate, yes.
Awesome. I mean, an amazing man.
Unbelievable.
And Kofi Annan, the piece you gave to Kofi Annan?
It was not directly to Kofi Annan, but then he was the head back then. They wanted sculptures. It was more about HIV and AIDS. There was a lot of stigma back then. So during that time, I'd lost 2 of my brothers and also a couple of guys from our studio. So I was making these pieces of HIV and AIDS, which I thought, I was just making them, not to sell them or whatever, but I made one large one, which I called our HIV friend, about 3 meters. It weighed about 5 tons. But it was bought by Chapungu Sculpture Park. Because they said, it's very important that you have created this piece. Then it traveled to Germany. And I heard people were crying when they looked at it. I have a picture I've sent to you. I think I have it somewhere. So during that time, that's when I think, because of the media, people picked it up that there was an artist who was doing something about AIDS. So they asked me to make small pieces, which were, I think his name was Stephen Lewis. He was the head of HIV and AIDS representative in Africa. So they asked me to make these miniature pieces. So there was a conference on HIV and AIDS in Toronto, Canada. So they asked me to produce these pieces for United Nations, and they asked me to come over and present them.
How does that feel like?
It was,
you talk about it as if it's going to the shops. Talk to me about, what does that feel like? I mean, you are with this amazing man, Nelson Mandela. You're with Kofi Annan. You're being asked by world leaders to do pieces, Dominic. That's not everyday stuff.
No, but why, for me, there is nothing special about it, because I know those are things which you cannot plan. So I think, like I said earlier, it was just by grace of God that I managed to do that. So it was really good. That ended up being in front of the people, saying a little bit about this stuff in Toronto. So it was really great. I think it was good for me and also good for our country, to be on such platforms. In that, talking about something which had a terrible impact on the world, global forum, yes.
I mean, as we sit here, Dominic, we've just seen headlines are beginning to come up again. HIV/AIDS is back, particularly amongst our teens. So it looks like it's work that you'll have to go back and start doing, sensitizing our young children about this scourge called HIV/AIDS?
I think so. I think the best would be to have people also to go to schools and even in churches to talk about it, especially people who are really known, like our music stars and stuff, and talk to the kids about the dangers of it. I think the problem is that people ended up encouraging people to maybe abstain, protect. No, abstain is good.
Yeah.
But people were taught to protect themselves. But with kids now, they get into drugs, they get into also they won't do that. I think people should have more on abstinence than allowing them to it's allowed to do it, because in the first place they're still young to be indulging in those activities. But people told them, it's now normal, you just protect yourself, then that's what you get.
That's what happens.
Unfortunately.
Sad. Let's go to your famous pieces. You just described to us I'm told that we need to take a break. Let's take a break, and we'll be back to look at your pieces and also the awards that you've received because of the amazing work that you've done. So viewers, don't go away. Join us as we take a tour around the world and see the places where Dominic's work has been displayed, and we go through the beautiful pieces that he's done. So see you on the other side.
Whatever you do, seek legal advice, no matter how good the deal looks.
Greetings. My name is Trevor Ncube, host of In Conversation with Trevor, Zimbabwe's most engaging conversational show. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. We've brought before your screens change makers from arts, business, and politics, and from the region. Please join our growing community of viewers. Subscribe, like, and share. Welcome back to our conversation with Dominic Benhura, internationally celebrated artist and sculptor. Dominic, let's go to your upbringing. You lost your dad when you were in your mom's tummy. Your mother died before you could show her what the Lord had blessed you. What has that done to you? Are there any scars? Are there any lessons from that kind of life? Why I ask the question is, for me, I find a lot of people say, I am like this because I never saw my father. I am like this because my mother died when I was young. I'm carrying a lot of psychological scars and so forth. Do share us with your experiences. What's the reality that you're living with?
Yeah, as a little boy, I was quite lucky that my mother, my auntie, were very religious people. And so they told me a lot about the Bible, such that, it somehow molded me as a little boy to be a good child, obedient kid, such that the whole community, even when I was in Murewa, they liked me so much. So when I come to Harare, people just liked me so much. And also back then, a child belonged to this society. So there was so much love showered to me from our neighbors back in Murewa and also when I came to Tafara. But if you read newspapers and television and news, all the news is about something bad happening to somebody, people being orphans and so forth and so forth. So when an orphan kid comes to me and telling me to be sympathetic about him, I'll tell him, I'm not sympathetic. Tell me what you want to achieve as a person. Because you can still achieve it with the help of somebody, regardless whether your parent is there or not, which is exactly what happened to me. So it's sometimes, as sad as it is to lose your parents when as a little kid, sometimes it makes you a stronger person also, because then you're hungry, you've got the desire to do things. You have the desire, like myself, I started wearing shoes when I was about 9. So I didn't have nice clothes. I relied on being given second-hand clothes by other people, which I really appreciated, because some people would never have people like that as a kid. And losing my parents, I would say, thank God. My father died, or I never saw him. I only saw one picture of him. But losing my mother just before I became independent, fully independent and successful, was very sad. But I appreciate to God, at least I saw one of my parents, because some, they lose them all before they will never see them. So I think the Bible always tells us that there will be resurrection, there will be, rapture at some point. We will meet those people again. So it's a loss on the earth, but not in heaven. So you just have to be positive. Yeah.
You have, just to on that issue, you have people coming to you wanting sympathy from you.
Yes.
And your messages.
Yeah. Tell me what you want to do in order to get out of this problem. How do you intend to solve? I'm not going to give you money or anything. So as a result, over the years, I've been trying to identify kids who are in need, especially from Rewa, where I did my first grade 1. Then I would take them at Kambarami School. Then I take them through the whole education process from whatever it is.
You pay for their fees.
Yeah, right. Sometimes I even send them overseas for studying. So I've got a few who have graduated now.
Well done.
Yeah. And also I would like to work with schools like Kambarami School. I ended up putting a transformer there for electricity, because I realized once it has electricity, then we built a library there. I did build a library as well. And there were no computers. It was back then, maybe at least 10, 15 years ago. I even brought in computers from America. So the library was electrified, it had computers, and I was so lucky it was officially opened by Mkoma Oliver Mtuguzi. That's the other important thing. If you are in a difficult situation, you should also identify the right people to interact with, So I was so blessed that I was very close to Mkoma Oliver Mtuguzi, such that he came to open that school, a library which I opened. It was a very big thing. Mkoma Marimo came, and Mkoma Albert Nyati, and Mkoma Mfunya, and it was really a wonderful thing. And now this school ended up having a boarding school, because they had the electricity, and they are doing very well.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Let's go to your beautiful pieces now. Mother and Child, what inspired that one?
Yeah, Mother and Child, I do variations of them, because that theme is not exhaustible. They play different games, and you can do so many angles, but they make me happy. I would safely say I was the first one to bring about pieces which are whimsical, playful, and whatever. Also, is a way of getting away from the sadness, because when I started sculpting, all our pieces were very stagnant, and they all had faces. But when I looked at the faces, they were not happy. And there's somebody who had a background which is not supposed to be smiling. I wanted to make happy pieces, pieces which relate to everybody. Kids, they see themselves in my sculptures, and parents see themselves in my kids. And even those who don't have children make you just happy. So I can also safely say I was the first one to try and put some inlays in the stone so that they're colorful. You find mothers and girls, they like to dress in colorful dresses. So I can safely say I was the first one to do that.
Swing Mama?
Yeah, Swimming Mama. Yeah, like I said earlier on, I was brought up by my mother. So I was just imagining playing with my mother or my aunt or whoever, a woman. They are so dear to me. And I'm also glad I have daughters also, yeah.
You know what's beautiful as I'm listening to you now is that what you enjoy, what you experience is what you're sharing to the world.
Right.
And the world is embracing that.
Yes.
Is that authenticity of you of saying, I grew up sad, but I want to make people happy, and people are embracing your art.
Yeah, that's true. I grew up sad, and I wouldn't say sad, maybe too
strong a
word.
word.
Too strong a word. Yeah, it challenges. I would put it that way. But I managed to overcome those challenges. So if you show positiveness in your whatever you do, even those in challenges, they will know you can come out of it one day. Yes.
You have received a number of awards, and like you were just telling us now that you've been commissioned by Camel to do a second piece.
Yes.
A number of your pieces have been recognized and featured. There's one in Cron Conservatory.
Yes.
You have a Dominic Benhura Day in Camel,
Yes.
Indiana, Ohio.
Yes.
How does that feel like?
It feels good. At least it's that I'm recognized on this planet,
Some of us will be going around beating our chest and saying, tweeting about it. Do you know this is who I am? Do you know who I am?
Yeah,
no?
but it doesn't make sense, if you do behave like that, because you never know. There is somebody who is going to do something better than you. And maybe people have done maybe a million times better than you. Yeah. So it depends where you are standing. So really, it's just nice. It's good for me. It's good for our country.
So when is the day, Dominic Benhura Day? What day is that?
It's 14th or 16th of May. Yeah.
16th of May.
Yeah.
What happens on that day? Do you go there, or they dedicate to showing your art and so forth? What happens?
Yeah, it's I don't go there, but they just committed that day. Like they will remember me during that day. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm really impressed.
And yet we don't have a Dominic Benhura Day in Zimbabwe.
No, there is it, but maybe it will come. Who knows?
We'll leave that for the moment. And you were also recognized Expo 92 in Seville.
Yeah.
Which of your pieces means the most to you?
Pieces which means the most. Yeah, I wouldn't like to say, maybe.
It's one of those things of asking you which one of your 5 kids is your favorite, isn't it?
Yes, it's true. But, like when I did our HIV friend, then it's not more about me now, but about humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think of all my pieces, I like that.
You like that piece?
Yeah. But then it comes the themes. I like those mother and child themes are my favorite. Or kids playing by themselves.
And you're featured in the UNICEF's 2014 calendar. The 2014 calendar.
Yes.
Another important recognition that.
Yeah, that's because what it transpired then was that they wanted to produce a calendar, but because of my family themes, and children, they thought it would be appropriate for me to create 12 pieces for each month calendar, which was really, really well received. Yeah.
You're a very humble person. You are a very humble person. We're so proud of you, Dominic. Proud of the work that you are doing, which is why I was embarrassed when walking around Amanzi Lodge and had not recognized you. You're doing amazing work. You are talking about this big project of yours. What's the next big thing that you would want to do?
The next big thing, is to create this place, as a small legacy, whereby I can then impart my experience and knowledge because I started when I was 10, I'm 55 now, So I've got a lot. I know all the twists and turns and the shortcuts to this. So I would like to try and share with a lot of kids as much as possible the new space which I'm going to have, yes.
What keeps you going in life?
What keeps me going?
Yeah, when you go through struggles, the ups and downs, what keeps you going? What do you hang on to?
To God first, because like you said, everybody has got problems, and sometimes you are duped by people. I had such a terrible experience.
Talk to me about that experience. What happened?
Yeah,
you were duped?
Yeah.
What happened?
It's very important when you become successful, and
to be careful.
You have to be extra.
Tell us the story. What happened?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into detail,
Sure.
but I'm just going to to warn people that they just have to be people when people approach you with projects, like you invest in this, invest in that, because people
take advantage.
Yeah, they'll really take advantage of you, and you might lose everything. But in my case, it was that bad. But
it was bad,
really extremely bad, that you lose nearly everything. But, if you go to the book of Job, it's true, the Bible never lies. I managed to ride the tide somehow.
Have you? Now I remember.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell
Yes,
people out there because you don't want
remember.
the details out.
Yes.
I think I do have an idea of the
Yes,
details.
exactly.
You invested a lot of money.
Yes.
In a funny project.
Yes.
You lost your money,
Everything.
your property, and
property is actually everything. But the good thing is, in most cases, like in my cases, I just believed that, I started with nothing. And all I had was this talent from God. So that's what I wrote on. And with the help of some friends just came along, and I managed to somehow ride the tide.
Have you recovered?
As you can see, I'm smiling.
Yeah, with the beautiful car outside. So you have recovered.
Not fully, but it's a process. There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Let's use this moment to warn people out there. What is it? I mean, without telling us the details, what should they look out for? I mean, you were duped. What happened? Not exactly.
Yes,
happened,
exactly.
What are the lessons?
What lessons is sometimes. Whatever you do, seek legal advice, no matter how good the deal looks. And maybe just keep to what you know. Otherwise, the sweetest talking people are the most can be terrible. And but for me, as bad as it was, I think it was a lesson because all my friends and people who knew me, they realized they could easily make the same mistake, So maybe God put me in that situation
to teach others,
to protect others.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are more extra careful than myself. Yeah, but I'm glad because at least because of my talent, I'm rebounding.
You're bouncing back again. Do you have a circle of friends? Do you have a mentor who you talk to when it comes to issues of this nature?
I am that kind of person. That's the other thing I would like to say. I don't have friends. I don't have mentors, but I choose people whom I talk to. Like I said earlier on, I used to talk to Mkomam because he helped me also. I talked to him
on
a
that
lot
issue.
We talked about it. Then I know people like Dr. Gramatun is a friend. I've got a few people who are very busy, but I have the opportunity to meet them and talk about these things, So I've got mentors. Now I know you might come to you also one day.
And do you obviously mentor other young kids, isn't it?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yes. Right, I'm not going to let you go before we discuss at least one book. So let's tend to books.
Yes.
I just want one book. What book have you read, Dominic, that you've enjoyed and you want our book-loving viewers to read there?
Honestly, I'm not a book. I'm not very.
I was told I shouldn't ask you about books.
But what I do is I like reading. I just go through newspapers. I like listen to news. But the one book which I really liked is The Shepherd Boy of Bethlehem. Yeah. The story of David and Goliath. Yeah. Why? Because I came first. I was always first during my school, second during my school days. And I have what reports when I was a little boy from primary. So I came first, so I was given that book.
We want those reports, We want to share them with our viewers out there.
Yeah, I'll give you.
Good.
So, I liked it, the story of Goliath, and it resonates well with that,
your life.
Absolutely, because, you can be nothing, but tomorrow you might be the king, No, not because I'm king, but I think it was just a beautiful book. Yeah, as a little boy, I read it and I still have it somewhere. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What an amazing life. What a humble human being. What an amazing Zimbabwean. It's such a privilege talking to you, Dominic. We met by chance, but sure. I don't believe in chance. I believe God wanted us, you and I, to meet and to be able to share the story with the rest of the world. the fact that you are celebrated throughout the world, that there's a Dominic Benhura Day in Carmel, Ohio, and we don't recognize that here, is a loss to us as a people. And I think the point that you do share, which is very important, which is a point that Mono Mkundu also shared, which is a point that a number of artists that I've spoken to, the fact that we don't prioritize sports and arts. We don't realize the economic opportunities that lie in sports and arts. I think that's a big indictment on us. And hopefully your message, your story, this young man who has made an amazing life from almost nothing because of the gift that God gave you, is going to make somebody out there realize that we need to do something about arts and sports. So thank you so much for creating the time to be here, my
Thank
dear
you so
brother.
much, my brother.
Thanks
God
a
bless
lot.
you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Allow me now to tend to our viewers, Dominic, who are all over the world, who follow us on a weekly basis, to say thank you for your support. Remember, we are a weekly show. We are out every Monday, 7 a.m. Central African time on YouTube. To ensure that you don't miss out on any of these quality conversations, I invite you to click on this subscribe button, like, and share with your friends. We read all your comments below the conversations. We have created a website where all our content sits, and we have podcasts that sit there for your listening pleasure. So go there and binge on our quality content. Thank you for watching. Until next time, cheers to you all.